a good plus mark on it. Okay? There are many good books on it. You have to be careful who your author is, because there are many other books that will say just the opposite. The book that I read for my master's program when I was still taking courses at JP Catholic had us reading some guy who was at the Religious Ed Congress, and I wanted to meet him actually after reading his book to see if he actually believed what he said, and if so, why was he at this Congress? And I can't think of it offhand, I can't think of his name, but it was all about the document. He's written extensively. He's one of these, quote, experts on Vatican II, and he believes it's a disconnect from the old council. He believes that the Vatican Council really didn't define anything, didn't change anything, and therefore many things are still up for grabs. He believes that women should be priests, and that homosexuals should be allowed to marry within the church, because the church has defined neither of them. Now, he's wrong, but he is a prominent theologian and speaker. Like I said, he's been at the Religious Ed Congress.
So he's
still teaching and writing books, and his main area is Vatican II, and I can't for the life of me now think of his name.
Therefore, we have heretic theologians inside our church.
Oh, of course, we've always had that. That's why you always have to be careful and not just pick any book off the shelf. Everything that I promote, I can say I have in connection with, or I know whom the author is. So there are faithful Catholic resources out there, and there are non-faithful Catholic resources. It's as simple as that. And you have to be discerning as to what you are reading.
So
Yes?
would it be very important then that you find a book that says it's premature? Not necessarily?
Not necessarily, no. Because all that means is that there is no direct doctrinal error.
Which one?
She said that way you have to look for the imprimatur, but that's not always a guarantor that you're free from error.
Being lost up.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But
All right.
how about what you said about CBI? They're obviously very
What's CBI?
Catholic Bible Institute.
Oh, out of Loyola Marymount? No, I would not. No.
So Chip, it's very difficult really for just, a lay person.
I know.
How did you know which?
That's why, I mean, this is what, it's encounters with CBI at St. Gregory the Great's Parish that caused me to not come into the church for a full year, because I was in direct conflict with what they were teaching as, quote, Catholic doctrine, but had nothing to do with the Catholicism that I was researching. Had nothing to do with it.
Are they under Jesuits?
I have no idea. My guess is no.
That they're inside Loyola.
Oh, yeah, but that means nothing. It means nothing. I know people that teach New Age spirituality that are in Loyola Marymount. I personally know them. So that means nothing. Okay? It is. And it's extremely confusing for most people in the laity. And I can understand that, because as someone as me, who was very well-read, did not accept everything offhand, and was researching everything, it just didn't jive with me. And so that's why I was so relieved when I found the commentary from Scepter Press that came out that showed that there are still faithful Catholic works out there. They're there, you just have to find them. Okay? It's the cross we have to bear in this century. It just is. You have to know your faith. You have to cling to your faith. You have to cling to the truth. And if it doesn't feel, there's something wrong about it, you're probably right. And there are ways to find out. And that, it took me a full year plus until I found the resources that were out there. They're there. They've always been there. You just don't hear about them.
And I think it's going to be very difficult at this time when we have this, we're very secular world, and there's, you know, we see a lot of, the more it's relativism, it's going to be.
Oh yes. She says it's even worse in our secular society. Oh, you have no idea. You have no idea. The fact that these kinds of questions are in Catholic colleges and universities, let alone in our secular state colleges and universities, is a chilling statement to make. You have to really research what schools you want to go to that are faithful Catholic schools. You just do. You can't just go to any Catholic university and expect to get Catholic teaching. Now, I know that sounds silly, but it's absolutely true. Now, the irony is that this is not true in evangelical fundamentalism. In Protestant circles, if you go to Biola, you know exactly what you're walking into. You know exactly what the teachers are there are teaching. You know exactly where they're coming from. If I go to a Catholic, pick any of them, just randomly, and just go there, I have no idea if they're even Catholic, my professors. I don't even know if they're Christian. I don't even know if they're Christian.
And they're teaching in the Catholic.
Yes. And you say, oh, I don't believe it. Well, then you haven't been paying attention, my brothers and sisters. You just simply haven't.
Even in high school.
Oh, yes.
And this school.
Any parish school, any. You have to research to make sure exactly you know who are teaching your children. Because many of them, not all, but many of them may not even be Christian, let alone Catholic. And that's just the nature of it. It just is. I personally know of people who have gone to Catholic high schools to teach, other teachers, who weren't Catholic at all, but they had an English credential, so they got hired. Period. Yes?
One of my girlfriends was in a Catholic school with her daughter,
Mm-hmm.
and it was one of the Catholic schools in the area. And she asked if she could interview the teacher. It was, and then when they did, she asked if she goes to mass. And the gal completely flew into a rage, saying, "How dare you ask me that? And that's not even your business." And this was, she wanted to know if the teacher was a Catholic going to school. And then to top it off, they said that they don't encourage parent involvement at their school.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
This was in the 5-mile radius of our church here.
Right. Right. I should be surprised, but unfortunately I have to say I'm not.
Could you repeat what?
She said that within a certain radius of where we are now, a girlfriend of hers went to a Catholic school to enroll her daughter, and when she was asked if she could interview the teacher, she interviewed the teacher and just simply asked her, "Do you attend Mass?" And the teacher got all upset and said, "How dare you ask me such a thing?"
It was a Catholic school.
Yes.
However, when the school where you're teaching, if you allow any Catholicism to enter into your teaching, you'd be fine.
Yes. Right. So the irony is, I should be surprised and shocked at this. And unfortunately, I'm not. And it's just, and this is one place, I could throw a stone at another one from here, and I bet I would find the same thing. Why is this in our church? I have no idea. I've been asking that question ever since I converted. I don't know why it is. All I know is that it's here. And we, as the faithful, need to be just that, the faithful. We need to know our faith, and we need to not just bellyache and moan about the situation. We don't curse the darkness, we turn on a light. It's as simple as that. And if I do nothing in this Bible study, I would strongly encourage all of you that if these things bother you, if these things are concerning you, you don't just sit back and grumble and gossip about it, you do something about it. And part of doing something about it is A, know the faith yourself so that you can recognize this kind of nonsense when you see it. 2, see if you can make changes in it. Okay? It's not enough to just say, oh, it's terrible. It's to do something about it. Okay? As much as you possibly can, in the capacity that you can. Talk to the priest, talk to the rector, talk to the religious ed director, and find out why this is going on. Why? And insist on maybe a higher caliber. And if the answer is simply, well, we can't find enough qualified Catholic people to do it, that's a poor excuse, frankly, if you ask me. It's a poor excuse. Okay? It may be somewhat of a reality, trust me, but nevertheless, do we compromise who we are for the sake of expediency? And if we do, what can we expect out of it? Okay? So again, we do something about it. We start to be the change that we seek to be in the world. This is out of charity, by the way. This is how we change. This is how we redeem our church. You know, God gave an order to St. Francis of Assisi. He said, rebuild my church, as you can see, is in such need. I guarantee you, my brothers and sisters, if we're outraged at all in what I've just spoken about, then we need to do something about it. Be the change that we need to see in our church. It's up to us. No one else is going to do it. Yes?
When you started, you say something, and that's the part as a Christian. When I say Christian, that means, you know, we got the 2 best weapons in the world, the Bible and prayer. So if you invite the Holy Spirit to guide us to get the right answer, I think, you know, God is more than welcome to tell us, you know, which direction we go.
Yes. Yes. And that's why we always invoke the Holy Spirit to be with us. We can't do this without Him. After all, you think God is concerned about all of this? Yes, it's His church. It's His flock that's being damaged by the lack of knowledge, by the lack of good teaching, by the lack of faithful teaching to His church. So He, above all, is very concerned about this. And you say, well, why doesn't He do anything about it? That's why He has you. He's not going to just drop something out of heaven to change it. He does it through us. We're the hands of God extended. Okay?
And there's a saying that goes, it's better to light a candle than curse the darkness.
Yes, and that's exactly what I was meaning by saying it's one thing to curse the darkness, it's much better to turn on the light. And I would hope and pray that most, if not all, of all that I teach here is meant to do just that. If there's darkness out there, if there's ignorance in our church, if there's misteaching, I would hope and pray by the power of God's help that I would give the proper way of that light so that it would empower you to spread the light around. And the more light that spreads, the less darkness that there is. You see what I mean? So that is the purpose of it. Now, I want to circle us back to knowing your enemy, your temptation tactics. And I want to spend the rest of our time going over this because this is all very key to our understanding of the scriptures. So we went over this last week, but it doesn't hurt to review it again. The first line of assault the devil does in his temptation is to draw us away to God draw us away from God is to sow doubt. And if we look at chapter 3, verse 1, it's very clear. Did God really say? And as I just read in here and in the catechism, this is the same line that he does with Jesus. If you are the Son of God. Are you sure you're the Son of God, Jesus? Well, maybe you need to prove it a little. Turn these stones into bread. Right? So the first thing is doubt. And the devil doesn't get any further with Jesus than this. Doubt. He can't go any deeper. But he does with Eve. If that seed of doubt is sown in your heart or your mind, then the devil moves to level 2. And level 2 is, if that seed is planted, he moves to question God's character. Does God have the best for you in mind, or is he just a big meanie? You know, God knows the day that you eat this fruit, Eve, you're going to be like God. So he's holding out on you. He may have given you everything else, but he's holding this back because he doesn't want you to be like him. He's not really loving you. He's trying to keep you in servitude to him. That's that whole idea of the master-slave relationship that Tim Gray and Jeff Cavins was talking about. See, that's just the opposite. Sin makes you a slave. You become servant to what you're enslaved to. You become a servant to the sin that you're enslaved to. Whether it's drugs or alcohol or gambling or shopping or love or sex or pleasure or anything, you become a slave to that. Which is the irony of what sin and temptation is. The opposite is living in the love of God, in the freedom of God. Okay? So if that gets planted, then he'll just flat out lie to you. Okay? The devil says, oh, you won't die. Well, that's just a flat out lie. But enough sown doubt has been planted in your heart and mind that if he flat out lies to you, you don't know the difference. And you go, you're right. He's been holding out on me. Give me some of that fruit.